Not anyone could pull it off, though, and he does pull it off, but he's really beefy. Like, you turned to me at one point and said, my God, because I thought he looked like the Incredible Hulk. There's one scene towards the end where you see him almost in silhouette, and he kind of walks out, and it's almost like he's some machine or something. It's like Terminator. So, we're talking about Speak No Evil today, a remake. It's a psychological thriller, written and directed by James Watkins. Haven't been able to talk about it until now because we went to a very special preview screening. Thank you, Universal Pictures UK. That was really good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, good night out.
So we went to the Curzon in Soho. It was a multimedia screening. Sometimes with these multimedia screenings, we don't really get much kind of extras, but we had our photo taken. We had a few glasses of free complimentary wine, which was very nice.
Yeah.
And I spoke to a friend of mine, Sarah, who runs Popcorn Chat, and she says, "Oh yeah, I saw your tipsy reaction." And I thought to myself, "Hang on, we weren't that tipsy. Did it come across as tipsy?"
Maybe we were just enraptured by the film and were giddy with excitement.
I think that's probably more likely. I think we were quite professional. I don't think we were that drunk. Didn't seem to be that drunk because we went on to the pub afterwards and had a few more beers there.
We did,
as you do when you've been working hard. Yeah. So let's just go back because we reviewed the original, which was a Danish horror film, more a horror than a psychological thriller, and that came out in 2022. Now that is, I think, a very different film to this, although obviously the idea is the same because it's the same story, but I think it's definitely more of a disturbing film than this one.
Yeah, the original Danish film was really harrowing, and we were both, I remember we watched a screener of it, didn't we? Didn't see in the cinema, but then when we talked, I was really downbeat, tough watch. Yeah, but this one isn't. The tone's quite different.
They're both very good films in their own way, but I mean, there's a lot more in this new remake, but also there's a lot less. I mean, we'll come on to that because I think it's worth talking about. I mean, we can't talk about it too much in detail because obviously it's spoilery, but this new film version stars James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, Aisling Franciosi, who was brilliant in The Nightingale. Have you seen The Nightingale that was directed by Jennifer Kent that did The Babadook?
No, I haven't seen it, but I remember seeing that actress was in The Fall, the TV series. She's Irish actress. Yeah, she's very good.
She's really good, and she's great in this. So, like I say, we were invited to the preview screening at Curzon. The atmosphere there was electric, wasn't it? Everybody really into it, and there was a lot of horror fans there. There was a lot of people that hadn't necessarily seen the original, because we sat next to a really lovely woman who said that she hadn't seen the original, but she was looking forward to seeing this new version. I think there's a bit of a buzz about this film, actually. It seems to be getting out. I mean, word seems to be getting out that, it's worth seeing.
Yeah, and it's a Blumhouse production, so it's kind of that, I guess it's got that studio behind it feel that I think it should do quite well.
I think that might put some people off because some people view Blumhouse productions as a little bit, I don't know, not conveyor belt, but I think a lot of Blumhouse films seem to be in it for the money. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing sometimes, but
they've famously kind of produced to a sort of template, aren't they, in terms of like they always have identical budgets, kind of. There's not really, it seems like some work, some don't, but they just keep churning them out. But and there's always a certain level, always a standard, but whether it's excellence isn't necessarily that often. But I think for this, really, what gives a better feel, I think if anyone remembers, I think it was James Watkins' debut, which was Eden Lake.
So good.
It's that tone more, and actually it's thematically a bit similar as well.
Yeah, true. I mean, I don't know whether you're the same as me, but I'm quite bored of remakes generally, unless the new version has something more to offer. And I think this film definitely has more to offer when you compare it to the original, because it's like I say, it does take ideas from the original, but it puts more into it, because James Watkins came out at the beginning and introduced the film, and he said he was talking with Blumhouse, and he did say it was one of the intentions was to make it like set in the UK, and he wanted that kind of UK feel, and that definitely comes across in this, because obviously James McAvoy's character is from the southwest. Him and his partner, his wife.
Hello. Thank you all for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. When Blumhouse and I first spoke about this movie, I said, oh yeah, I think I'm really interested in exploring this if I can set it in Britain. British characters, British culture, humour, landscape, horror. I thought if I can do that, then I can sort of explore something that speaks to me and hopefully to you.
Yeah.
And fortunately they let me. And so here we are in this beautiful cinema. And it's funny, I was talking to a friend the other day and he was going, oh, I don't go to the cinema anymore, I've got a 65-inch television. Yeah. And I said, look mate, it's not all about size. And it's not just about the screen, it's about the audience, right? And it's about that experience, that communal experience together in the dark, where you can laugh together and hold your breath together and cry together and cheer together and scream together. And you can only get that in the cinema. And I hope tonight you get some of that with our film. Thank you.
But let's talk about the story, because the story is, I think, really relatable. I think a lot of people will relate to that really kind of cringeworthy, awkward feeling that we have when we meet people. You know, this is obviously about couples that think they know each other, but they don't really at all, because they've met these two on holiday and they've sparked up this great relationship and they're invited back to their home, but obviously they've never been there before because they've only seen them on holiday. So it's that kind of situation, isn't it, where we think we know people and we don't really at all.
Yeah, they meet on holiday in this amazing Italian place, which is the same as the original film. Actually, I think they meet in Italy, and then get a postcard saying, "Oh, come and spend the weekend with us." It's that thing where, you know, if you then go to stay with someone, if suddenly things aren't seeming to work out, you're kind of a bit stuck there. Whereas if you just meet someone for a drink or for dinner, it's kind of like limited. James McAvoy is the couple he's part of are English, and then the other couple are American, and they're quite uptight, and it's definitely plays on awkwardness. It's quite interesting that it's like, because the cliche would be the sort of like loud Americans and the kind of awkward British people, but this is kind of the other way around. And also they've each got a child. They really handle that stuff of like how you react to other people's children and what's acceptable, like, you know, whether you can tell someone else's kid off or, you know, and that kind of stuff. So they really ramp up the kind of awkward tension, and they're in this very, very remote place, kind of a farm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, is it the southwest? Would you say someone like Devon or Cornwall or somewhere? Because I got that vibe, because I grew up in Cornwall, and you're from Gloucester, aren't you, originally?
Yeah.
So it did have that feel about it, you know, the remote cottage in the middle of nowhere, very beautiful. I mean, again, like the intro scenes, really beautifully shot, and obviously on location in Italy to begin with, so it had that kind of bright, sunny feel, and then that kind of clammy, claustrophobic, you know, remote place in the southwest as well. But yeah, I think it does. I mean, I wasn't expecting how funny this was. I mean, the script is really, really witty and clever. It's intelligently written, I think. I mean, we've obviously seen James Watkins movies before, and they've been a big hit with horror fans. But I think, you know, that's not to be underestimated, the power of the writing, because I think, you know, it's that situation again where, you know, it shows how stupid people could be, and we were all laughing along to those situations because we've been there ourselves. And I think that's what's clever about this, is that, you know, we've been in those awkward, uncomfortable situations where we're very polite. I mean, typically British in many ways.
And also how dangerous people who are very charming can be.
Yes.
If someone's very charming and appeals to you in a certain way, it's almost like that quality almost leapfrogs over other things you may notice or about them, and kind of, you know, almost like you're not as cautious as you would be. And in particularly Scoot McNairy, who's an actor I really like, he plays the American guy, and you know, he's kind of like, you get the sense that he's kind of like feels a bit tied down by marriage and children, and his daughter has lots of anxiety issues, and his wife is probably very overprotective of the child, and you know, you can tell he's having a bit of an early midlife, where's my life going? And then suddenly this James McAvoy character that's a bit more brash and cocky and edgy is very appealing to him, and it's kind of that sense of like, it appeals to him, but then yeah, they're kind of quickly in a quite tricky situation. And I think,
my God.
You know,
that's putting it mildly, isn't it?
but both films share the same reveal of what's going on, which is really quite shocking and really, really quite dark. But then what's different is in the original film, they pursue it a certain way, whereas in this one it diverges, and kind of the end is quite different. It isn't as disturbing. I think for me that was a good thing, because when you actually invited me to see this, I was initially hesitant because I really liked the original film. I thought it was very good, but it was really disturbing, and I was just like, I don't know if I want to go through that again.
No, you're right. No, because it is very bleak, isn't it? I mean, especially that final scene that everybody talks about. If you have seen the original, my God, we didn't expect it to go there, and they went there, and it's like the worst nightmare situation you can think of. Can we talk about the child actors? Because I said to you at the screening, I'm not always a fan of child actors because they draw me out of believing the reality of the situation, and they didn't at all in this, and I thought they were terrific, the child actors here, and really believable and kind of charming, and you know, not too cloying, because kids in films, I think, can sometimes be either precocious or just a bit irritating, and they weren't at all. They, you know, they reined in the performances in a way that made them likable.
Yeah, and they also, the children kind of are part of the plot a lot more than in the original thing, I think. And one of the young actors, his character doesn't speak, which kind of is what it's related to the title of the film. But
it's never really explained, though. I mean, they do hint at it, but I suppose what's clever about it is that they make you work it out in your head, as opposed to explaining. Because in the original, we do see a graphic detail, which I suppose a lot of people had issues with, because it's children being harmed in a film, isn't it? Which in itself is very disturbing, which makes the film more powerful. But they don't really do that with this.
It's easy to work out what's been happening, but it's not shown.
I suppose he demonstrates, doesn't he? The child that...
Yeah.
In the original, if you've seen the original, you know that injury.
But not giving anything away, but yeah,
I know it's really hard to talk about, isn't it? But yeah, I think that was good. That was quite clever, intelligent. Like I say, an intelligent way of explaining it without being gratuitous.
Yeah.
But that's what made the original powerful as well. So it's really difficult to compare the two, because they're both great in their own way. But I think this is more of a fun ride because of the humour and because of the action. There's a lot more action in this, I think, than the original. And it just feels more like a fun, thrilling rollercoaster ride.
The sort of way the plot develops and how it resolves is very much more a sort of chase at the end, as sort of trying to escape from someone. So you have all those kind of like falling out of things and landing hard, running and doof. And
almost like Mousetrap, isn't it? The final scene, the third act, And I was eye rolling. I mean, you talked about one of the lead characters, the father, Scott McNairy.
Yeah.
You said you really like him. I really like him as an actor, and he was painful in this, because he was a bit of a wet fish, and yeah, the way it plays out at the end, he does kind of redeem himself, which is great, because I liked him more towards the end. But up until that point, I was like, oh my God, this man. It's like he's you can understand why they're not getting on as a couple, because the wife, you could just see, you know, she'd lost her. She'd lost her temper a couple of times and was quite brutally honest about where the relationship was going. And you kind of do side with her, but then something happens at the end, and
they're not. I mean, that's the thing. They're not particularly likable characters all around. And but then he kind of has to step up in particular. It was good, very very entertaining film.
I have to ask you though, Paul, were you frightened or disturbed by James McAvoy's character, and also, Aisling Franciosi as well? Did you find them as scary as the original characters? Because I didn't. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think, again, it was a very different tone and it was a different energy to the original film, but I was more scared of those in the original.
Yeah, in the original film, they're kind of a bit harder to pin down, so you're kind of very suspicious about them, and it's still all a bit odd, whereas I think they sort of show their true colours quite clearly. And yeah, he is more, James McAvoy's character is more of a sort of slightly jokey character anyway. I mean, I think he does it incredibly well, because he's a very understated, charming actor, I think, James McAvoy, and he's quite likable, and in this it plays on that a lot. And he seems to be having a whale of a time in it. Interesting to read interviews and stuff, because he seems to be relishing this kind of like, it's a great role for him to do.
Oh my god, what a brilliant role for anyone. I mean, not anyone could pull it off though, and he does pull it off, but he's really beefy. Like, you turned to me at one point and said, my god, because I thought he looked like an Incredible Hulk. There's one scene towards the end where you see him almost in silhouette, because it's a nighttime shoot, and he kind of walks out, and it's almost like he's some machine or something. It's like Terminator. I suppose you would need to be a bit beefed up in this, because it's that kind of powerful role, isn't it?
Yeah, and also, he's got to have a bit of swagger and be kind of sexy as well, and it certainly works.
So I think overall, there's a lot of action put into this remake. There does seem to be some details missing, like I say, which I think is skillfully explained. I think a lot of the plot detail is explained without it, being kind of violent on screen. It doesn't seem to be that kind of film. Again, the tone is different to the original, and I think they're two very, very different films, despite them being the same story. So I like what James Watkins has done, and I think it was very entertaining. And also, I would say, don't be put off by the fact that it is a Blumhouse production. If you're not necessarily into Blumhouse films, you think they're a bit lazy. This is not a lazy remake, and I don't always like remakes, so I gave it a big thumbs up.
It looks like a lot of thought and effort's gone into this. It's kind of like, it's a very satisfying film to watch.
The final verdict then, Paul, what are you going to go for stars-wise, star rating?
It's a 4.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the experience. I thought it was a really good night out, and I'd like to see it again, actually. I think Jeremy is not always into kind of violent, gruesome horror films. He's not a big horror fan, and I don't think it's necessarily one of those type of films. I think it's more thrilling.
No, probably, other than a bit of disturbing, oh god, that's what's been happening, and a bit of like, ouch, someone's just landed on something or been poked with something or something sliced. There's a bit of that, but it's not mega gory. And also you've got the really, I mean, even before any of the horror comes into play, you've got a really great, quite a lot of content of just kind of awkward social comedy, of just like stuff going on that's just good fun. It's really good fun. And then it starts to get more sinister. So I could see people who are kind of like at the edges of whether they like horror or not. I think this would probably be quite a good one.
Definitely. Well, good to see you, Paul. Thank you so much for your input on this, and thank you for coming to the screening as well. It was really good fun. Check out our review on the screen now of the original Speak No Evil, which we did a couple of years ago, and let us know if you're going to see this new remake and how it compares to the original, if you've seen both, or maybe you've been put off by the original and you're not sure whether to see this new version. I would say go and see it.
Yeah,
we both would.
Yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.